Hey, what up? This is Ree here. Ree up, motherfucker, back again with another video. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate everyone. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. It really helps me a lot. And thank you so much for checking out my website, paradxastrology.com. I'm a professional astrologer. I can help you with anything. And I'm doing consultations right now based on the eclipses, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And I can give you your own private consultation to let you know what the energies will be like for you and what you can expect in the future. So okay, let's get into this video. So like you heard, it's about the eclipses. I'm just going to do the first eclipse, which is on October 25th. And this one is a lot more lighthearted than the one coming on November 8th. November 8th is really going to stir up a lot of things for the world. It depends on your chart. So don't freak out over me saying that, but I just want to give you a more realistic approach to things, and never be in fear or anything like that. It doesn't do anything for you. You are a powerful being. Now, this eclipse is going to be happening on, like I said, October 25th, and it's going to be in Libra. And in Libra, we have the nakshatra Swati. So that's where this is going to be happening. Now, Swati has a lot to do with being independent, going on your own. It's about long-term planning, something that you plan for a long time that could be activated. So the eclipses activate certain points, and these eclipses will last from 6 months. Usually it could be 6 months before, like we're already feeling this energy, but it gets more and more intense as we get there. Usually we see a lot of events that occur around 3 days before, 3 days after the eclipse, and the most intense events. But I've seen things happen like even 3 months, exactly 3 months before the eclipse. Say it was, for example, a year where I had eclipses in the 5th and the 11th house, which can bring out a romantic relationship. The eclipse happened 3 months later exactly, I met that person. So that's just like an example, but they can last up to 6 months even afterwards. And we have 2 of them. So this one being in Libra, make sure you check your chart, see what house this occurs in, and that will give you a more direct understanding of what this is. But Swati has to do with being independent. It is the chakra that represents a plant, something that's very delicate, a newborn plant that's blowing in the wind. As it blows in the wind, it gets stronger. With time, it's about patience. It gets stronger with time and patience. And it builds itself up to be a razor that's completely sharp. So it went from being delicate and tender to being very sharp in a very good way, to being very strong in that sense. So it's transformation. It's slow transformation, but this will be activating something that maybe you really had planted the seeds for a long time. This is a catalyst. Also, it's anything that you had a negative balance towards. So balance sometimes can bring procrastination, where it's like you didn't want to take one side, you didn't want to take a side. So sometimes people who are way too balanced, I've noticed this, and some people who have these nakshatras, they will procrastinate making a decision because they don't want to hurt one party or hurt another. You know, that means if you choose something, that means you're going to have to dismiss another out of 2 choices. So if you have been kind of on that balancing act and not really making a decision on something, this is the time where it's going to be brought out, and you're going to have to make a decision on that. It'll activate, so you're going to have to make the choice. So it's not wanting to take that stance in order to always have that harmony, but when you take a stance, you're going to have to, some people, sometimes their feelings have to get hurt, because this one's about being independent. So I saw a lot when I'm doing consultations and people's charts that a lot of people are ending up having to go on their own, and it'll be a really great thing because we have Venus right there as well, which is the Lord of Libra. So Venus is relationships, Venus is self-worth, Venus is anything you value. It could be your own value, your self-value as well, or it could be physical objects that you value in the material world. So Swati also translates to independence. So this will help to unlock some things that maybe a relationship comes in, or something of value comes in that helps you become more independent in that sense, or something is let go. It could be letting go of a relationship or some kind of possessions or something like that, that helps you transform to be more independent as well. So no matter what, even if it's a letting go, it is for your highest good. Also, unlike the sun, which does not do well in Libra, it's about individuality, but it's about the sun represents individuality on a soul plane. This is individuality that has to do with a talent or a skill. It's something more on the material plane rather than the soul. So this is going to unlock for some people some talent that they had that they've been working on for so long. Because sometimes we have a talent and then it just ends up being a hobby, and then you didn't really realize that that's supposed to be your job. And so depending on what house this is in your chart, this can unlock that as well. I've seen that as well. It also has to do, like, since it's Libra, it has to do with the law, sex, money. These are a lot of issues that will be brought up into the media as well. We're seeing this a lot with this Venus, so it's like female rights. We're seeing that a lot across the world, things like that. Another interesting thing about Swati is this is the nakshatra of the fourth most ranked billionaires have this nakshatra for the moon, sun, or ascendant. And you can go check out Claire Nakhti's video. She talks about that. It's like a really great video about nakshatras. The number one being Jajesta. But having the eclipse right there, example of this is there are some Rockefellers who had this. I mean, some of the richest people in the world have this, right? So I'm kind of seeing that with having Venus there, this is going to actually either really benefit some of the richest people in the world having this eclipse there. And it kind of makes me wonder what kind of deals are being done right now. I know a lot of people are not really trusting the government or what's happening right now, and it arose my suspicions. Let's put it that way. Will the rich get richer? I guess we'll wait and see. This nakshatra is also related to the goddess of music and learning. So we'll have a lot of themes that have to do with that because it's related to the chest, it's related to air, it's related to breathing. We'll probably see some things in the news related to that as well. It's in the first pada, which is ruled by Jupiter for writing, communication, open-minded nature. It's usually good for traveling, just that pada, but the nakshatra and all is not very good for traveling. But it will be good for a businessman and people with trades of all kinds. It will be good for singers, musicians, anyone with instruments, independent businesses, entrepreneurs, government-related professions, pilots, and the air industry, travel industry. It'll have things to do with that, not necessarily. There might be some element of that being transformed, whether it's positive or negative. I'm not too sure whether they get some kind of bailout and money to transform. I could see that happening as well. Also for like reporters, lawyers, judges, things like that, there'll be definitely things changing for these types of professions, a transformation with agricultural land, also places with high winds. We could see some things related to that. I'm just reading the energy. There's also, markets, airports, educational institutions, courthouses. Something will be transforming in those areas. Trains, bus stations, the way we travel, things like that. It's good for acquiring financial gain. This one right here is good for worldly prominence. So if you have a well-placed one here, this could help you gain some wealth out of nowhere, depending on what house it's in and what other placements there are. It's good for buying and selling. What it's not good for, that's why I said the travel can go either way just because of the pada it's in, but it's generally not good for travel, warlike activities. So that's the kind of thing that gets me a little concerned because the next eclipse is going to be happening in areas where we have Uranus and the North Node, which makes it just even more unpredictable, and Aries is war. And this is not good for aggressive behavior because it doesn't pay off in the long run. So if we see any aggressive behavior that has to do with war, this is going to become an incident that will happen by November 8th. Since it's ruled by Rahu, there's an urge for comfort and luxuries. That's why it can bring you something beneficial in your chart. Also success in Venetian businesses as well because it's Libra and we have Venus right there as well. Some people could actually find a relationship out of nowhere that comes in depending on the house too. But be careful for greed for the next eclipse. Be careful for overindulgence or greed because by the 8th you will regret that as well. And this is a midpoint between expansion and contraction. So it's when it starts to contract within itself, this nakshatra, you start to go more within at this point. And so, like I said, it's ruled by the element of air, which is Maya, and its ability to adjust to any situation or any kind of circumstance without losing its essence. So that's what's good about Libra is Libra can always be that good negotiator and understand both sides without compromising itself, but you have to make a decision. So this will help you no matter what happens. It will help you flow through it like the air and get through this very easily. Also, we have the sun there, we have the moon there, we have Venus there. So the sun being the soul, the body, and then the moon, the mind. And then we also have the Venus is the value. So all of this is going to be there. We have K2. So that's why I was kind of saying with the relationships, like there could be something that you need to cut off. Or I've seen actually some people in their chart when it's in the second house. This could be something that you're selling. You could be, it doesn't, when you say loss, it doesn't have to be bad, or endings. It doesn't have to be bad. It could be something you're getting rid of, a possession, so that you can become more of yourself. So that's one thing that could definitely happen. Once you get rid of that possession, which is Venus, you can acquire money, which is Venus as well. So that's just some different things. There's Sun square Pluto, which can bring out some conflicts with leaders or powerful figures or people in government high places and stuff like that. It's a challenge. It's bringing out a challenge of transformation, of these people having to transform. And just like my other videos, I predicted a lot of leaders will change. We're seeing that a lot already, and we'll be seeing more of that. There's also Moon square Pluto. So where these things are happening, the leaders have to change because the public is not with it. The moon is the public, it's squaring Pluto. Something has to transform with the mind, the emotions of the people. This is in conflict with the leaders as well. So things are transforming on that front because of this. There's also Saturn square Uranus, which is still happening even closer. So that's kind of like the structure of things and then the rebellion of the structure happening. So I have a video about that. You can check out on my channel about the square. That's been happening since 2020. And that was happening all of 2021 in around January, February, then around June and the end of the month. And then this is the last square. So once Saturn starts going direct at the end of the month, we're going to be going away from the square, but now it's kind of like this is the head. Kind of we're getting to the head of these two polar opposites. We got Saturn square the node. So we kind of also are at a turning point. We're kind of at a fork right now where we have to decide the structures and the boundaries that no longer are working. Like, are they going to come with us? Because we're squaring both the nodes. We're squaring the past and the future. So now it's trying to decide, like, what are we going to take with us, basically? And it's a turning point. We're at two very karmic points in society right now. So yeah, that's just my reading of what will happen and a little predictions there. And I hope you like it. And I appreciate all of you. And I'll see you next video.